In this episode, we are talking about Microsoft Secure Score, what it is, why and when it's used, and why it might be useful to your business. A bit about me, and I've been working in MSPs for the last couple of years now, and my career has been mostly focused in Microsoft Modern Work, so around Intune, Entra, ID, and used to do a little bit of Azure as well, mainly focusing on Azure Virtual Desktop. Done everything from help desk all the way up to solutions consultant and architect, and now with Enforcer, helping people get the most out of the Microsoft stack, and making sure that what we're talking about makes sense in the real world for MSPs. So what is it? What is Microsoft Secure Score? Microsoft Secure Score is a way of measuring your Microsoft 365 tenants' security posture. This is done with a percentage score. You'll get a percentage anyway from 0 to 100, and it highlights risks within your tenant around misconfiguration, so badly configured policies or settings, and Microsoft offers their recommendations on how you can remediate them, and they'll give you extra points, increasing your secure score as you complete the recommendations that they list out for you. It supports zero trust principles, so Microsoft Secure Future Initiative talks a lot about zero trust, how we should be always making sure we know exactly who's entering our systems, who's authenticating, making sure people only have the access they need to do their day-to-day job. And assume breach is there as a reminder to us that cyber criminals are always on the lookout for new attacks and places and tenants to attack, right? So we should always assume that there's something nefarious going on and do our best to protect against it. The score is basically made up of completed actions versus the total possible actions, and that's how that sort of percentage is calculated. There is some weighting going on, and you'll see a little bit about that later when we have a look directly in the portal. Things are split out into different categories around identity, data, devices, apps, and infrastructure, and each one contributes slightly differently depending on what the recommended action is. And it will also compare against industry benchmarks, so it looks at other tenants that Microsoft has in its ecosystem, and looks at ones that have similar user counts, right, and tells you how you measure up against them. So you'll see in a sec when we look in the portal, there is an area that says that there's tenants of similar size, right, and it will show you what their scores typically are and how you're doing versus them. So why does Secure Score matter? Well, I mean, in its simplest form, Secure Score offers a very simple metric for us to track and demonstrate to stakeholders and our customers, especially the sort of non-technical folk that we have to speak to. If we try and talk to them about conditional access, EDR, Defender for Office 365, they don't really understand what these things mean, and nor should they, right? They're running a business, or they're non-technical people. MSPs are the experts trying to make all this stuff work for them. So this gives them a very simple number that they can understand, track their progress over time. You know, they know if you're making their score go up, then you're probably doing a good job at improving their security posture, and just makes it easier to have conversations with customers rather than bombarding them with a load of technical jargon. I mean, it looks to sort of capture low-hanging fruit, right? I put MFA adoption cuts account compromise risk by 99% there. It's still one of the biggest ways that we can help protect against identity compromise. And so these recommendations are really focused around making sure that you are getting your tenant up to a good sort of base level. It supports ISO, CIS, NIST frameworks. So there's not necessarily built-in one-to-one mappings for some of these frameworks, but what it does do is the recommendations that Microsoft make will help support the recommendations that these frameworks make, and help you in your journey when you're becoming, sort of more aligned with some of these frameworks. And it allows you to be continuously driving value for your customers as well, right? You want to be able to offer managed services that are constantly improving their environment. And reducing risk for them, you know, whether it's Microsoft releasing new new recommendations around security for Microsoft 365, whether that be an Entra, Intune, whatever that may look like, or whether it's just Microsoft releasing new features that means that we need to we have like a new area we need to look at securing. Copilot and AI being a big example there. And then looking at some of the rest of the industry, right, we're seeing quite a lot of cyber insurance firms now looking at Microsoft Secure Score for a tenant when cyber insurance renewals come around. So they will have a benchmark that they set, and if you don't meet that benchmark, you may have to pay higher premiums for your cyber insurance. So super important, especially as MSP customers come to MSPs more and more to help them with their cyber insurance questionnaires, right? So what voodoo calculates these numbers? I know with Microsoft sometimes it does appear they're doing some voodoo in the background and it doesn't always make sense, but at its simplest form, the higher impact configuration actions will earn more points than the lower impact ones, and this is where that weighting comes in I was talking about. So for example, enabling MFA for all of your users, that's going to have a higher weighting than something like turning on mailbox auditing, right? There's a bigger security impact there, so we're going to give you more points. That's the sort of low-hanging fruit, if you like. And the score changes as you complete or remove actions. So essentially, as you complete an action, Microsoft will detect that change within its configuration. It'll give you the points, mark that recommendation as completed, and automatically raise your score. And again, this will happen in different areas. So for identity, mainly focused around conditional access, but some other settings as well, maybe around some user risk or sign-in risk, and things like data, so OneDrive, SharePoint, devices, Intune, that sort of stuff. And your score is measured against the maximum possible for your environment. So that would be 100%, right? 100% is you've completed all the recommendations. I put an asterisk there though, with a sort of, as there can be some caveats that mean it's not possible for you to get to 100%, whether that's, sort of overzealous security configuration that's not actually compatible with the way your business or your service offering works, or your customers' needs, right? And there also might be some licensing challenges as well. So Microsoft may make recommendations that require some extra licensing that you might not have yet. So one thing to keep in mind. So let's have a look at the Secure Score portal. To get to it, this is my 365 admin portal for my demo tenant. Let's click Show All. We'll go to Security. And in the Security and Compliance portal, we'll go to Exposure Management and Secure Score. We're focusing on Microsoft 365 Secure Score, Cloud Secure Score, out the scope of this video. And here you can see it's starting to show you the breakdown of these different workloads here. Let's have a look. So my tenant here has a 66% secure score. You can see exactly how many points I've achieved out of a possible 278. And we get a nice little track over time and a little overview here. As I look on the right hand side here, I can see a comparison against organizations of similar size. So this is that sort of benchmarking I was talking about earlier. So with the number of users that I have in this tenant, tenants will typically get a 48% secure score. So actually my tenant's doing pretty well. 66% is not bad, but still some room for improvement. Actions to review. Each recommendation can be categorized depending on what stage you're at with dealing with that recommendation. They'll all start in this default state of to address, and you can manage these as you go along your secure score journey. I'll show you exactly how you can change those in a second. We get some top recommendations here. You can see they're sorted mostly by score impact, although Microsoft has its own ranking, which you'll see in a sec, that weights things slightly differently. We see the status and the category there. And we also get a little history of any points that we've gained or had regressed. So, if you've had a setting changed within your portal, that means you're no longer compliant with that recommendation, they'll actually take the points away from you. You need to go back and have a look. So the history will help you understand how that works. Also, if Microsoft releases a new feature as well, this would probably show up as a regression if your secure score goes down there. So let's have a look at recommended actions. This is probably where you'll spend most of your time in SecureScore. We have the rank here. Again, you can see this is a rank that Microsoft gives based on the impact, the risk, but also the amount of points you can get depending on the scope, right? So if you've got a lot of users, there might be a chance to get some more points there. You can see we get 9 points 9 points in total there. Currently doing 2.25, so I need to put probably some more work on my multi-factor authentication for some of the users here. But you can see how they sort of sort by a certain rank here. If I scroll down to the bottom, I can see my completed ones here. So these are the ones that I've already completed or that are already configured before I looked at SecureScore here. So you can see I'm getting the points for these, and that's what's counting towards my 66% at the moment. We see the status here. Show you more about that in a second. You can see if the item has regressed, so if it was configured as per the recommendations and it's now gone backwards, that will show there. Have license. This is very important. You might see some recommendations that you don't actually have the licensing for. So these two, for example, sign-in risk and user risk, they are Entra ID P2 features. I have Business Premium in this tenant as my licensing SKU, which only includes Entra ID P1. Again, the category and actually the exact product as well that the recommendation relates to, as well as when this recommendation was last synced. So when did Microsoft last check to see if you've made the changes that it's recommending. So let's have a look at one of these. Let's dive into this one. Move messages that are detected as impersonated users by Mailbox Intelligence. So I get a little description here of what this recommendation actually is. And an overview of the current implementation status. So it looks like I do have a policy that is ready to help this recommendation out, essentially, but it's currently not configured correctly. So it's saying 100% of users configured less securely than is recommended. So what do I do to fix this, right? I can go to implementation. I can see the prerequisites. So yeah, I've got the right licensing. I have Defender for Office 365 P1 from a Business Premium license. Next steps, it'll tell me exactly what settings I need to enable and how to configure all the little sub settings there. And I can go ahead and do that. So if I want to actually jump straight to the portal that lets me do that, I can hit manage here and it will actually take me straight to where I need to be. So you can see it's taking me to this policy here in the anti-phishing section. And so I can go in and make that change as it recommends. As I'm working on these recommendations, I can edit the status and action plan. So you can see if I'm planning to do this and I've reviewed it, I can go, we are going to fix this. Fantastic. But it may be that actually there's a reason why I can't have this enabled. Maybe there's a business case for it, or again, doesn't fit in with your service offering. So you can mark risk as accepted. Again, you have to put a justification here if you're using these three at the bottom. Or let's say you resolved it with a third party or an alternate mitigation. So maybe you're using a different mail filtering solution. You can pop that in here, write a justification, and that will cover that one off. To be clear though, if you do mark it as the risk accepted or dealt with by a third party, you won't get the points for it. All right, Microsoft wants you to use their tools to increase your secure score, right? So just something to keep in mind there. We look at the history here. I get a nice, well, much more granular overview of how my secure scores tracked over time. So you can see we started at a 46% here. We deployed some policies, jumped up to 63, a couple of little regressions here. This might be me creating users without multi-factor authentication, dropping the score down, and then once I've enabled them, it bumps back up. Some more configuration here. Fantastic. And again, we get a deeper insight into the history of the point gains and regressions as well there. And the metrics and trends tab, this one's quite nice because it shows us the overall score increase. Since we started, we can drill into the history of that, and we've got a little comparison trend against organizations of a similar size, so we can see how we're tracking against typical organizations with the same user count. We actually get little plottings of where things have regressed here, and I can drill further into those if I want to, as well as any risks that I've accepted. So if I've manually accepted a risk because I'm not wanting to or can't deal with that recommendation for a particular reason, you'll see those logged here and you can drill further into them there. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of SecureScore in the portal. So, scores on the doors. What are your current SecureScore ranges? Maybe for your customer tenants or even your own tenant. Are you currently talking to your customers about SecureScore? You know, is it part of your service offering, or is it something that you think you probably need to start having more conversations about, especially around the cyber insurance conversations? Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you're thinking. Let's continue the discussion there. Next episode, we'll be raising the bar, so talking about what additional licensing can unlock for SecureScore, and also some of the challenges that not having the right licensing can pose and how you can deal with those. Please subscribe if you like the content. If you want to check out more videos from Enforcer, my colleague Tim has just started releasing videos around Copilot in a new mini-series. If you want to learn more about Enforcer, please visit our website or check us out on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email. See you next time.